Algebra 1, Sensei Learning System, Lesson 28. We're going to simplify these. First, let's start with the x terms. This is x squared over x to the third power. I can simplify this by canceling out two x's from the numerator and the denominator. This will cancel out all x's here, but this will leave me with one x there. I can also cancel out the binomials x plus 4's. This will leave me with this right here will cancel to 1 times x minus 7 all over the x here to the first power. Next, okay, here we have x to the fourth here and x to the third here. These will simplify. This will simplify to the x, and this will simplify to a 1. We have x, a binomial here, x plus 2 to the fifth, x plus 2 to the third power. These will simplify. And this will simplify to the second power here. So what we'll have here is only 1 will be left in the denominator. X here, we have x minus 5 to the fourth power and 2 of the x plus 2's. And because 1 in the denominator can be understood, we have x times x minus 5 to the fourth times x plus 2 all to the second power. Okay, here we have x here and x to the third power. So these cancel, it becomes 1, and this cancels and becomes x squared. The x minus 2's here, both these factors will cancel, leaving only 1 here. So what we'll get in the numerator is 1 times x plus 5. The x minus 2's cancel. We're down with x squared here. And this becomes only one single x minus 2 to the first power. Now, this can be written without parentheses. So we have x plus 5. And this can be written without the power of 1. So this will be x squared, x minus 2. Okay. Here I have a 12 and a 15. Both of these are divisible by 3, so I'm going to simplify them by dividing them by 3. So this becomes a 4, and dividing this becomes a 5. So 4/5. These two can cancel each other out and become 1. So 4 times 1 is 4, and 5 times 1 is 5. The x plus 2's, I have 5 on top, 4 on the bottom. So when these cancel, everything in the bottom will cancel, but I'll have 1 left here. So we'll have x plus 2 to the first power here. And here I have, of the x minus 3's, I have 5 in the numerator, 6 in the denominator. All the numerators will cancel, leaving only 1 in the denominator, which is the x minus 3 to the first power, which again can be written as simply 4 times x plus 2 all over 5 times x minus 3. Number 5, we have a 20 over 12. Both of these can be divided by 4. That's the greatest common factor that can divide them. So 4 goes in here 5 times. 4 goes into 12 3 times. So we have a 5 and a 3. These x's can cancel. They'll become 1's. So 5 times 1 will give us 5, and 3 times 1 will give us 3. We have x plus 6. We have cube term here and a fourth term here. So when they cancel, we're going to have one term of x plus 6 left in the denominator to the first power. Here, when these cancel, we have 4 in the numerator, 5 in the denominator. So when they cancel, we'll have 1 left in the denominator. So x minus 3 to the first power there. Okay, and this can be rewritten as 5 over 3 x plus 6 times x minus 3. Okay, here I have x squared minus 4, which is the difference of two squares. That can be factored into two binomials. along with the last binomial, x minus 1. So the x minus 1 is still here, but the difference of two squares, x squared minus 4, can be factored into x plus 2 times x minus 2. Here, the x plus 2 factor remains, but the x squared minus 1 is a difference of two squares, so that can be broken into two binomials. The binomials would be x plus 1 times x minus 1. Now, when I cancel common factors, these two, they cancel, the x plus 2's, and the x minus 1's also cancel, becoming 1 and 1 here, leaving 1 times x minus 2, which is x minus 2, all over 1 times x plus 1, which is x plus 1. Okay, this is a 64 here. So we have a difference of two squares, x squared minus 64, which will break into two binomials, and we have our x plus 6 factor still here. Okay, so x squared minus 64 breaks into x plus 8 and x minus 8. Here we have x plus 8, and the x squared minus 36 is another difference of two squares that can be factored into x plus 6 times x minus 6. So the x plus 6's, these cancel, and the x plus 8's, they cancel, all become 1's here, leaving 1 times x minus 8, so x minus 8 here, and 1 times x minus 6, so that's x minus 6. Okay, number 8. Number 8, we have a difference of two squares, the x squared minus 81. That'll factor into two binomials, and the x minus 10. Okay, the x squared minus 81 will factor into x plus 9 times x minus 9. In the denominator, we have an x minus 9, and we have an x squared minus 100, which is also the difference of two squares. So that will break into two binomials. That'll be conjugates. X plus 10 times x minus 10. Okay, the x minus 10's, they cancel, become 1. And the x minus 9's cancel, and they become 1. So this is 1 times x plus 9, which is x plus 9. Also 1 times x plus 10, which is x plus 10.